Ready to
different
roll.
apps, whatever you do on your phone, read books, watch videos, TV programs, films, whatever. That is becoming an addiction. The phone is an addiction. This is one of the problems. The smartphone, society is being put forward. Smartphone is called a smartphone, but the app is the phone. So that, in a sense, that in itself is kind of, there's a tragedy behind it. This smart device, this handheld computer is not a phone. The app is the phone.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Buck. Thank you so much for your call. And I can see that you're a first-time caller, so thank you for picking up the phone. You have given me an excuse as well to mention David Bowie. Long-term listeners to this show will know that I am a huge fan of David Bowie, particularly his late 90s and early 2000s work, which I think is massively underrated because everybody always talks about Ziggy all the time. And if you asked me to do a spontaneous TED Talk, it would be about the work of David Bowie in the late 90s and early 2000s and why it's some of his best work. That was like a mini TED Talk in itself. But what it reminded me of is in the documentary that recently came out about David Bowie, Moon Age Daydream, he talks about how he was putting his art into the world and people were responding to the art, but he was always playing a character, or usually playing a character until later on in his career. So he felt very lonely because there was David Bowie behind the art, behind the music and behind the characters, and that's what people were responding to. And I remember watching that and thinking, we are all David Bowie. In the era of social media, we are all David Bowie because we create this character, this avatar of ourselves that we send out into the online space looking for validation. And it's that avatar that is interfacing with other people's avatars. And we're behind it, and we're not actually forming genuine connection. Social media can be great, it can plug you into communities of like-minded people, it can be a great way of finding information. But in terms of genuine connection, I don't know whether it can actually provide that. So I wonder how much social media, because certainly in 2018, when the Minister for Loneliness was first introduced, certainly
keep right and then exit
have been
right
around for a while. So I wonder how much of the blame we are going to place with social media for this.
Exit
0345
right.
6060 973 is the number you need. Kelly has called from Lambeth. What would you like to say?
Hi, I'm calling to say that it also depends on age. So, for example, I'm sure we can all remember when we were younger teenagers and younger adults, we would feel lonely. That's also got to do with hormones and the new world you're coming into, a whole bunch of new emotions, new interactions. So that loneliness is quite normal. Now, the epidemic we're seeing currently, I believe, is more to do with social media has a massive part to play. However, I also think it's cultural. I was just telling a researcher, I'm from Latin America.
Okay.
We don't experience being without socializing. We meet up, we go to each other's house, we call, we message, but we keep things very, very intimate. Something I've not noticed in the British environment. So the people I work with, friends I've got to know through I skate, people that I skate with, they're not big callers, they do everything through social media. I don't have Facebook, I don't have Instagram, I don't have TikTok, I strictly have WhatsApp. If I see someone take my calls, I don't interact with them because I'm trying to create a connection. And if I see that they are creating a very superficial connection, I will not interact with them because I want real people to be a part of my life rather than just their avatars, you were saying.
What do you think it is about your culture, your Latin American culture, that people are less susceptible, it sounds like, to the lure of only talking to each other via message?
I think it's the fact that we're very family orientated and very social. So, for example, we're big dancing salsa, we're big into making events. Food brings us together, our culture brings us together, so we want to be involved in that. We want to be a part of that. We want to connect back to our roots, so it makes us want to be together. We, in touch as well, we bring others into it, but I have noticed that with my English friends, by English I mean actually like Caucasian people, not British,
keep
like
right
British and
and then
like
exit
white
right.
people, they find it very different that we are actually consistently talking
Exit
to each other and
right.
meeting up, and I just always think, why is this so strange to you? And I think particularly
Turn
in the
right.
city of London is a problematic city where everyone's just here to work, make money and get on with their day, but in reality everyone's lonely. Another theory I have, sir, I'll just say quickly. Most people say they're lonely, but they don't notice that there's always someone willing to reach out and willing to be there, but a lot of times we ignore that because it's not the person we want. So it's a sort of biased loneliness as well. I also disagree with the social media. It makes us lazy psychologically, and a lot of people don't get checked when they do something wrong, because through social media you can do whatever you want. Whilst if you're with someone, the way you speak, the voice you use, the tone, the words, people will let you know that you're doing wrong. So people prefer not to be called out, which is also diminishing people's social skills.
Really interesting, Kelly. Thank you so much.
And then
I think
exit
it's
right.
interesting what you said about how there's in a very densely populated area, there's always the next person, because that's how I feel about Tinder. I don't understand how anyone finds love on an app.
At the roundabout,
other apps are available. It's not just Tinder. There are other ones out there. But where in a situation where you're dating and the next option is just a swipe away, I just think you could find somebody who was 99% perfect for you and exactly what you were looking for, but you would always have in the back of your mind that maybe 100% is out there. And it's a similar sort of mentality, isn't it? If you've got all of these different people around you, and you're thinking there might be somebody more interesting or more attention-grabbing over there, maybe that is a way in which we don't form genuine connections with other people. It's an interesting thought anyway. It's just a theory that Kelly put forward and I'm extrapolating on, and it could be absolute nonsense, but it's something to think about, isn't it? It's 8:30 now, so it's time for your news headlines with Tim Daly.
8 people have died following a knife attack in eastern China. Police in Yixing are also saying 17 people have been injured at an arts and technology school. 2 police forces have begun working on a murder inquiry after the discovery of a woman's body in the boot of a car. It was found in the Metropolitan Police area, but is thought to be that of a woman from Corby in Northamptonshire. And it's being claimed the cost of the damage being caused by unhealthy food is now exceeding the entire annual budget of the NHS. A new report has been looking at the impact of ultra-processed foods in our diets. LBC weather, dry for the south of the UK overnight with some clear spells. A few scattered showers will remain in the north and the west, and they could turn wintry in parts of Scotland. A low of 1 degree.
This is LBC.
Get ready to turn left.
Emergency ambulance. Is the patient breathing?
I've hit a man in my car. He's not moving. I didn't think I was going that fast.
Is he awake?
I don't think so.
Turn
I was
left.
only going 20-ish.
Okay, what's the address?
Church Road by the theatre.
Right, the ambulance crew on their way.
I'm so sorry.
Stay calm. I need you to help him. I'm going to tell you what to do.
Get ready to turn right.
I was only going a bit over.
Turn
Speeding
right.
injures or kills over 1,000 people in London every year.
Never mind.
Slow down.
I'll find a new
London
route.
and TfL. Every journey matters.
Intrepid Travel
Turn
Cyber
left.
Sale is now on, which means you can save up to 20% on hundreds of exciting small group trips around the world. Sip and snack your way through Japan. Wander the mountain ranges of Morocco. Or retrace the steps of the Inca in Peru. All with like-minded travelers and a local leader to help you explore beyond the everyday sights. Intrepid Cyber Sale. On now at intrepidtravel.com. Terms and exclusions apply.
Let
Finding
your
a new route.
imagination run wild. Experience Disney's award-winning musical, The Lion King, at London's Lyceum Theatre. Book your tickets at thelionking.co.uk. See it now. Remember it forever.
This is LBC.
Let's find a new route.
345 6060 973. Text 84850. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
It's 8:33. Some really interesting texts that are coming in on 84850. So Albert says, "Hi Natasha, there have been so many local pubs closing in recent
Get ready
years.
to
They're not
turn
only for
left.
drinking, they're social hubs where people can make new friends after moving into a new area. They are also missed by many communities."
Turn left.
I wonder, Albert, and I completely take your point about how many local pubs have closed, but whether the increasing culture of not drinking amongst young people is part of this. And, yeah, we have to be quite careful how we talk about this, because obviously alcohol, particularly when drunk to excess, the way that my generation were encouraged to do, does an enormous amount of damage, both personally and socially. However, it is also a disinhibitor, and it does encourage socializing. So I wonder if that's part of the picture, why we're seeing greater numbers of young people who are feeling lonely. Ruth says British weather doesn't help socializing. Indeed, who wants to go out when the weather's like this? No one. And Caroline has said, we evolved to communicate using non-verbal cues as well as language, which is why things like facial expression, eye contact and tone of voice are so important. None of this happens via typing messages to each other on a screen. Waka has called from Camden. What would you like to say?
Yeah, hi, Natasha. Sorry, I'm a first-time caller, so if I trip up, you'll have to hold my hand.
Oh, you are very welcome.
I just want to talk about care. And when we say
Go
the word
straight
care,
on.
what first thing comes to mind is old people and physical health and all the things that are associated. But I think you'll have to rethink that, because the need for care is a basic essence, basically, that human need. And I think that is not being fulfilled, and perhaps there is a gap that we all are feeling. And perhaps there has to be ways in which we can think around how do we fill
At
those
the
gaps
roundabout,
in our lives.
take the first exit.
Do you think as well that part of it is
Exit
that
now.
we're far more likely to move away from our families? So whereas when you're a child, for children traditionally, they would have their parents and their grandparents and maybe even their great-grandparents that lived nearby. Now they might not have that network around them. Do you think that could be part of the issue?
It is, definitely. I think the society has evolved, and there are a lot of people living now by themselves, and therefore what you're describing is exactly one of the contributing factors to a lack of empathy in the society, that because the human relationships are sort of not physically connected, we are living separate and different lives, and therefore the distances are becoming, let's say, increasing between us. So I just wanted to say that there is a societal need, in fact, that is not just age dependent, and this age is going to probably come earlier in our lives, where we need some form of care, maybe for our emotions needs.
Keep left and then turn left.
I thought that was a great first-time call, Waka. I don't know why you were nervous at all, and thank you so much for
Turn
it.
left.
I'm going to just pause this conversation briefly to turn our attention to something else that caught my eye today. GPs have warned they're increasingly concerned about people self-medicating their ADHD amid an ongoing global shortage of drugs used to help manage the symptoms. We're joined now by Dr. Anita Raja, who is an NHS GP and health commentator. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, Anita.
Go straight on and then turn left.
What are people self-medicating with predominantly?
Turn left.
I mean, when it comes to ADHD, let's start with the basics. So diagnosis is extremely difficult on the NHS at the moment. It would take anything between 2 to 4 years
left.
now for people to be on a waiting list before they're even seen. And when they are seen and given a diagnosis, there is a global shortage of ADHD medications. Some of these are controlled drugs, stimulants, and hence they're highly regulated. There's only a limited supply globally. And we've seen that during COVID. So in the past 4 years, there has been an increase in the diagnosis of ADHD. Now we've got a 22% increase in the diagnosis of ADHD compared to previous years. And this is based around the fact that people are much more aware, people want to know why they're different, and they need closure. Now, when it comes to self-medication, we know that there's a black market out there. We know that not just ADHD medications, but any type of medications you can buy off the streets, the black market, off the internet. And sadly, there's simply not enough regulation around that. However, my concern as a GP really is the fact that people are turning towards alcohol, people are turning towards drug abuse, just because people are turning towards cannabis because they want to calm their nerves, slow themselves down, especially when they are suffering from a condition like ADHD. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a condition that you suffer from. It's a personality type. We're much more accepting of it. But yes, if you have ADHD, your mind is just racing at 1,000 miles per hour, and it's really difficult to sort of calm down. And I guess then when you're not getting the service that you require, you sort of tend to get distracted and tend to move towards things that may not be healthy for you.
And it completely stands to reason why people would be doing that, but of course it's very much not an ideal way of coping. I wonder, we all know what the dangers of alcohol consumption to excess are, but are there any particular dangers for people with ADHD?
I mean, ADHD is a very interesting personality type, I would say, where the personality is slightly uninhibited, which essentially means that the fear of consequences is not the level where it would be if someone would not have ADHD.
Okay.
So my worry as a GP would be that these type of personalities are more dependent, which would mean that if they are turning towards alcohol, there may not be an end to it. Like it may well be 5 bottles of wine a week type of alcohol rather than, a glass of wine once a week. So the excess is something that I would be concerned about being a GP. I mean, these are amazing people, and some very phenomenal people in the world have ADHD, but we do need to help these people in a timely fashion, which is unfortunately not happening on the NHS. And sometimes these people are disadvantaged because they lose relationships, they lose, they find it difficult to keep down a job, they find it difficult to stay in education, especially university education. They cannot keep up with coursework. It is very difficult to cope.
So what would your advice be to anybody who at the moment can't access the medication that they need or can't access a diagnosis of ADHD? What else is available to help people through?
Well, sadly, if you're asking me honestly, the system when it comes to mental health, psychiatry, when it comes to neurodiversity is the system is dire and is failing patients. I would suggest that the first right step in the right direction is to speak to a healthcare professional and see, if that helps. I mean, even speaking to someone about how you help, we could try and access some counseling. We could try and speak about, if you're suffering from anxiety, depression because of your ADHD, we could sort of tackle that in general practice. I mean, as general practitioners, we really try our best to deal with, our patients and deal with the long waiting times. I mean, ADHD is one thing. There's so many other specialties where we're just simply on the waiting list for years on end, and we try and help.
Go.
I would say, please speak to your GP. I understand it's a difficult time. They might be able to help you with, if you are now out, there's lots of help out there, and your GP will be able to support you through this.
Thank you so much, Dr. Anita Raja there, who is an NHS GP and health commentator. And I think that there are some common threads to this conversation, and certainly this text from Ivan would suggest that they are. Ivan has said we need to also consider that the lack of services throughout the past 14 years is a significant factor of loneliness. For me personally, as an autistic person, there is a terrible lack of adult autism support services. I wonder whether the lack of support for mental health and for neurodivergent conditions is part of the reason why people are feeling lonelier at the moment. If this is something that you have experienced, by the way, that there is a shortage of Ritalin and other drugs which are used to manage the symptoms of ADHD, and you are struggling to access the medication that you need, then there's still about 15 minutes for you to contribute to the show if you want to give us a call. 0345 606 973 is the number that you need. Chloe has called from Croydon. What would you like to say?
Hello, Natasha. There's 3 elements
Exit
I see
now.
to this story, actually. one of those is because we're now in a
Go
transient
straight
society,
on.
people move around quite a lot, not like in my parents' days, and certainly not my grandparents' days. So people tend to move for work, move for career promotion, for job prospects, and so on.
Keep
Whether
left.
that's like your journalist who spoke earlier, and I think he said he was from the north of England and he moved down to London.
Yeah.
I had friends just move over to Doha for work. Somebody else that moved to New York. And
At
they
the
would have to
roundabout,
start their
take
friendship
the
group
first
again.
exit.
Somebody else moved to Cardiff. They would have to find
Exit
friendship
now.
again, communities that they like. And because everything is advertised on the internet, so
Go
you're not
straight on.
confined to that newspaper or your local Croydon Gazette drop into your door. You can find a role in Singapore, in Argentina, in Kenya, and if your circumstances allow, you apply. You're
At the
best
roundabout,
fit, you
take
move.
the second
so I
exit.
think the world is very much a very fast moving pace, and people are super ambitious. They just go for it and then think about the friendship
Exit
later.
now.
Because geographical boundaries are becoming less and less relevant, aren't they? We live in a kind of global society thanks to technology and thanks to the ease with which you can travel. Yeah, that definitely is part of the conversation.
Yes.
And Chloe, thank you so much for that thought. An interesting couple of texts that have come in with regard to why renters are particularly finding this difficult. This one says, renters are often forced to move away from family and friends to find affordable rent. That's definitely, I think, a part of the picture. This text also says, anonymous 84850 says, I'd love to attend a friend's speed dating session, particularly if it was a place where alcohol wasn't the main driver. So that, I suspect, is from a young person, because increasingly young people are choosing not to drink. But, it could just be from anybody of any age who is sober. But I suppose if your perception is that all of the social activities must be centred around drinking, then that is going to be off-putting for you. If you want to contribute to this conversation, 0345 6060 973. You're listening to Natasha Devon and the time is 8:45.
Coming up at 9 on LBC, The Legal Hour.
Join me, Barrister Daniel Barnett, from 9 o'clock to ask any questions that you have of a legal nature. 0345 6060 973.
The Legal Hour on LBC.
At Specsavers, we've got hearing devices that can stream music or movies, and ones that are good in crowds, rechargeable battery ones that are good at home, ones that are good in the great outdoors, ones that connect to phones, ones that fit in your ear, ones that fit over your ear, and ones that fit in wherever you happen to be. We've even got ones with the latest advanced tech, like the Phonak Infinio Sphere. And they're all available at great Specsavers prices. Book a free hearing check today, because okay hearing is not okay.
For local trips around London, think bus. It's the most convenient way to travel in your area. With the Hopper fare, travel as many times as you like, within an hour, for £1.75. Plan your journey with the free TfL Go app. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters. Applies to buses and trams. Always use the same card and device. For full terms and conditions, visit tfl.gov.uk/hopper.
What makes a hero? Fearlessness in the face of danger. Hair that's perfect after flying through a burning building. Colourful tights. Or is it making everything possible? Working tirelessly to make the financial year end. No thought for anything but the success of your clients. Yes! The hero is you, accountants and bookkeepers everywhere. And QuickBooks accounting software is here to support you. Intuit QuickBooks, for the hero behind the heroes.
For GCSE and A-level success, one name stands out. Justin Craig. Small, tailored group tuition that really works. Justin Craig courses consolidate knowledge, boost confidence,
Keep
and
right,
improve technique
and then
for
exit
mocks,
right.
assessments, and exams. Available in classrooms and online. One-to-one also available. With
Exit
over 40 years
right.
experience, Justin Craig has helped more than 100,000 students. For more details, visit justincraig.ac.uk. Justin Craig, tailored for you.
This is LBC with Natasha Devon.
And I think it's important to remember that all newspapers have editorial input, right? So we spoke to the young man who attended what was essentially a friend's speed dating event and wrote an article about it for the Telegraph earlier, and he was talking about what he experienced. I'm pretty sure that article would have gone through an editorial process, and if you read the article, the impression you are left with, definitely, is that it is lockdown and working from home that are the only cause of loneliness amongst young people in this country. But you have to remember that that's the Telegraph, and the Telegraph had a huge campaign, a huge anti-lockdown campaign, and also for some reason hate anybody who works from home and thinks that they're the devil. So my question is that I have no doubt whatsoever that lockdowns and working from home are contributory factors to this. But my question is that it? Because I highly doubt it, considering a Minister for Loneliness was appointed in 2018, way before COVID happened, and the number of other factors that we've already explored which could be behind loneliness in young people. Things such as waiting for support with your mental health or with your neurodivergence. Things such as being forced to move away from your family and friends to find affordable rent. Things such as social media and the increasing reliance we have on communicating via text as opposed to face-to-face. All of these, I think, are going to be contributory factors, and I want to know what you think is behind the fact that renters, in particular, young people who rent, are more likely to feel lonely. 0345 6060 973 is the number to call. David has called from Bury. What would you like to say?
Yeah, right, it's Sasha.
Very well, thank you. What can you tell us?
Yeah, by the way, I'm a big fan of David Bowie myself.
Yes.
He did an interview in 1999 with Jeremy Paxman.
Oh, I've seen it, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How would he know that? That was on a postcard.
Yeah.
Because even Jeremy Paxman was looking at him like, you're off your rocker, are you?
Yeah, for those people who are unfamiliar, yeah, he was talking about what technology would do to us psychologically, and he pretty much got it spot on, didn't he?
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, unbelievable how he had the foresight. I think in terms of the loneliness thing, I think it's like, you see, I'm nearly 40 now, so when I was a kid growing up, my mum's friends would actually call around to discuss some local gossip, you know, over a cup of tea, like, because where now it's obviously, as we've already been discussed, it's easy to send a WhatsApp or a text message. It's kind of, even people don't pick up the phone to call you anymore. I've got people, my friends, they won't answer the phone when I call, but they reply with a text. It's weird. I don't like the weird. But a quick story, what I found as well with society is, I was in London when Princess Diana died the night she passed away. And we were staying on Baker Street. And obviously, flowers started getting laid pretty quick at the gates of Buckingham Palace.
Yeah.
You know, and there was, honestly, by the time we were there for like 3 days, by the time we came home, I've never seen so many flowers.
That was like an ocean, wasn't it?
Yeah. Now, when the Queen passed away, I went down to the Queen, and there was nowhere near as many left at the gates as what died. And I think that is because there's been a societal change where people now, back in there, you had to get on your backside and line the streets to show you either your support or your sorrow for something. As where when the Queen passed away, I think people were, it's easy to just go online and pay your condolences.
Oh, just putting RIP your match on Facebook.
Yeah, that's it. If you've done your bit or donate to a GoFundMe page. Society has changed. But my worry is, I think the genie's been let out the bag kind of thing now, so it's not, we can't put it back with mobile phones. Steve Jobs let a monster out in the mobile phone when he's invented it. I don't think we'll go back. But my worry is, I think it's going to morph into some kind of multiverse where we'll all be getting home from work, we'll all be putting a headset on, you'll be able to wear your best clothes, you'll be able to meet with friends the other side of the globe. This is coming. This is what's going to happen.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's essentially what the metaverse aims to do, isn't it? Where you can create a sort of AI version of yourself that goes and socializes in a space that is not reality. David, thank you so much for your call. I was heartened, actually, to see, though, that the algorithm, or AI, I should say, has turned on Elon Musk. And AI is now pointing out that Elon Musk is one of the greatest disseminators of misinformation and disinformation on the internet. So from reading sci-fi, I always used to think that AI would be the downfall of humanity. But based on that story, I think actually it could be the thing that saves humanity humanity from the worst of ourselves. Another time, David, I am going to do an entire phone-in, I think, about why people our age, or a little bit younger than me, but your Gen Xs and your millennials don't pick up the phone, and why we would rather message, because it's such a thing, and I don't really understand why. But that's not specifically what we're talking about this hour. We're talking about generally, more broadly, the phenomenon of loneliness. We're also talking about ADHD and the difficulty of getting a diagnosis and the number of people who are self-medicating as a result. And Tom has called from Dagenham. What would you like to say?
Oh, thank you. Great, fantastic subject. You presenters on this radio station, 1 in a million. You do amazing discussions for the public, and I wish more people would pay attention to what you guys talk about. It's quite serious subjects, and it could take us fit off. But wait, you should call me another day about this subject. I'm lonely. I'm sitting in my tent. I'm homeless, and I'm lonely from the age of 52 last week. I'm 50 from the age of 6. I've been lonely. It's like me in the world. And from when you're born and a child asks you a question that's an adult sort of question, it surprises you.
Yeah.
I've never lost that ability. I see things the way they should be, and before it gets brainwashed out, I can't stop it. And what it is, I might have that doctor who was on just previously. I learned I've got the symptoms she described. My brain's racing at 1,000 miles an hour. And what it is, what helped me control it when I was at the age of 12 was I was introduced to chess.
Right,
it helped me to focus on a subject. But then, as an adult, I got into cannabis, and that helped me self-medicate, resin, to help me relax my brain, chill me out a bit. But I was smoking it like cigarettes, and but honestly, my brain right now, I'm trying to focus on this subject because it's so important that there must be millions like me out there who are worried about being alone. So what, you're alone? No, not so what. It's not even what it is. I don't want to lose track of what I'm talking about, but I'm lonely. It's honestly, if you saw the way the human race, we're so amazing, but it's so crazy. Like the universe, if you see it the way it is, there's like a pattern to it. So, like an engine was designed, it's got to be a certain way for it to work. So, like the universe, it has to be a certain way in order to be what we see. And Brian Cox put it as the blue sky of research. You study from what you can observe.
Yes. And we can observe so much, can't we now, thank you to technology. Tom, I'm really sorry to hear that you felt lonely for so long, and I'm really glad that LBC is able to keep you company. And you're not alone in terms of struggling to get a diagnosis of ADHD and self-medicating your way through it. I mean, I know that there is one particular correspondent who hates it when I say this, but as I said before, do have quite a few friends, like, not boasting, but I just do. And it happened to a friend of mine who has just received a diagnosis of ADHD. And when it happened, I actually said congratulations, because I knew they'd been waiting for it for so long. And part of the problem was that they were turning to other methods other than the prescribed medication to just take the edge off and to survive day to day. But you can't get the help that you need without first getting the diagnosis. And that's part of the problem. It can take a really long time. Chloe has called from Croydon. What would you like to say?
Hi, basically I'm 22 years of age, and I'm currently trying to undergo an ADHD diagnosis from being a child.
Okay.
But from 15 to 18, I was self-diagnosing with alcohol.
And so you say from 15 to 18, why did it stop? What meant that you were able to...
My mum and my family got me around, and I went to my GP to seek help, basically. And I went through therapy, and I'm currently on antidepressants.
Okay. And are they helping?
They were to begin with, but now obviously you need to get higher dosage as the time goes on and everything. Do you know what I mean? And I don't personally want to be taking antidepressants to make me feel better.
Well, not if that's not what you need. I mean, SSRIs are supposed to be to treat the symptoms of depression and anxiety predominantly. But if it's ADHD that is the root of the issue, then really you want something that's more appropriate for that. I mean, what are the barriers to you actually getting the diagnosis?
I had to go through my GP, they told me they referred me and they didn't. Then lockdown came, and then I went through my therapist, and then my therapist ended up referring me.
And how much longer do you think you'll have to wait?
They haven't given me a time frame.
Oh, that's incredibly frustrating, and you just, that's the nature of it. It's such a postcode lottery as well, depending on what area of the country that you're in. Chloe, thank you so much for picking up the phone and sharing your story. You had the last word of this show. Thanks for all of your calls and texts today. I'll be back with you next week from 6 p.m. If you missed any of today's show, you can listen back on Catch Up on Global Player, where you can also pause and rewind live radio, as well as listen to a range of podcasts. Download for free from your app store or head to globalplayer.com. Coming up at 10, it's Nick Abbott, but now it's time for the Legal Hour with Daniel Barnett.
Thank you, Natasha. It is, as Natasha said, the Legal Hour. It's your chance to get answers to your legal questions and help on a wide range of topics. Whether you're grappling with an employment law issue, a consumer problem, a contract dispute, an insurance company which won't pay up, a slip, a trip, a fall, anyone who's negligent, a medic, a negligent builder, a negligent lawyer, this is a tongue twister, plumber, electrician, a difficult supplier, a difficult employee, anything else spanning the complete legal spectrum. I'm here to provide practical advice to help you move forward. Call LBC. I'm Daniel Barnett. I'm here for the next hour on the LBC Legal Hour to help you.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 9 o'clock. Officials in China say 8 people have died and 17 more have been injured during a stabbing at a vocational school. It happened in the east of the country, and a 21-year-old man's been detained, as LBC's Charlotte Morgan now reports.
The attack happened at the Wuxi Vocational Institute of Arts and Technology in the city of Yixing. Videos have started circulating on social media, which appear to show people lying on the street with others rushing to help. It's believed the suspect is a graduate of the school. Police say he'd failed his exams and couldn't get a graduation certificate. They're also suggesting he was unhappy about his pay and an internship.
Northamptonshire detectives investigating the death of a woman found in the boot of a car say she was a 24-year-old called Harshita Brella. They're currently working alongside the Metropolitan Police following the discovery at Ilford in East London. Concerns about the woman from Corby had been raised on Wednesday. Lebanese state media is reporting Israeli ground forces have reached their deepest point inside the country since they began invading 6 weeks ago. In Gaza, Palestinian officials are claiming at least 10 people have been killed following an IDF airstrike on a school being run by the United Nations on the edge of Gaza City. Israel says it's looking into what happened. A report has found the UK's unhealthy food system is costing it £268 billion every year. Data shows the country is the second largest consumer of ultra-processed meals and snacks in the world after the United States. The Food, Farming and Countryside Commission calculated the overall impact of diet-related ill health on the NHS, welfare and productivity. Its chief executive, Sue Pritchard, has been speaking to LBC.
The cost of our dysfunctional food system has been revealing itself to us over some time now, and that's why we commissioned the report. We were starting to hear bits of data from different organisations indicating that the costs were spiralling out of control.
And hundreds of farmers have been protesting outside the Welsh Labour conference over government plans to lift some exemptions on inheritance tax. In last month's budget, the Chancellor announced farming estates worth more than £1 million would now be subjected to a 20% levy. LBC weather, dry for the south of the UK overnight with some clear spells. A few scattered showers will remain in the north and the west, but they could turn wintry in parts of Scotland. We'll see a low of 1 degree. From Global's newsroom, for LBC, I'm Tim Daly.
The advice offered in this hour is for guidance only. You should always seek your own independent legal and financial opinion. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation. The Legal Hour with Daniel Barnett.
Never mind. I'll find a new route. Recomputing.
A very good evening to you. This is the LBC Legal Hour with me, Barrister Daniel Barnett. It's 9:03. If you've got a legal problem that's giving you restless nights or something that makes you angry and you want to know if you can sue to get compensation, or maybe you've been involved in litigation against your will and you want to know if there's a way of finding a way out elegantly, well, tonight, as with every Saturday night, it's your chance for free legal advice. You just need to give me a call, 0345 60 60 973. You can WhatsApp on the same number. You can text 84850 or ask Alexa to send a comment to LBC. We always prioritise calls on this show because it's much easier for me to interact, ask supplementary questions, get more detail than it is if you've sent in a text. Particularly if you send in a long text, by which I mean more than a sentence or two, it's just a little bit too long to read out on air. And I'm afraid a lot of people do send in pages and pages of A4 by way of text. They just can't be read out on air, I'm afraid. But let's go straight to the calls. We've already got lots of calls coming in. Stuart, you're going to be up in just a few moments, but let's start with Graham in Bushy. Graham, good evening.
Hi, Daniel. It's good to speak to you. I've got an employment issue on behalf of my wife. She works 3 days a week for an accountant and has done so for the last 10 years. He's retiring in April and running down his practice from the start of the new year. She's never had a formal employment contract, but has been paid monthly from day one.
How long has she worked for, Graham?
Over 10 years. Okay. The accountant has suggested to her that he wants to reduce her hours from January as the practice is being run down and there will be less income. So my questions are, is he able to reduce the hours unilaterally and therefore her pay? And how will this affect her redundancy payment next April if she does accept these reduced hours and pay?
Yeah, great couple of questions. I'm assuming that she's on a fixed hour contract and not a 0 hour contract.
Correct, yes.
So he's not allowed to unilaterally reduce her hours. If he just says, I'm only paying you for, is she working full time, 40 hours a week?
No, she does around 3 days a week, about 24 hours.
24. So if he says, I want you to work 2 days a week, 16, and just carries on and doesn't pay her, she could actually sue at the end of the year for the missing wages. But let's not go down that route. What's far more likely is that if he says, I want to reduce your hours, and she says no, because of course she can say no, there is the possibility that he will dismiss her. And if he can prove a good business reason for the dismissal, it will be a fair dismissal, and then offer to rehire her on a 16-hour contract rather than a 24-hour contract. If he doesn't offer to rehire her, by the way, it'll be an unfair dismissal. But if he does, she's between a rock and a hard place. Right. She says no, and she's been fairly dismissed. She says yes, and she's on a 16-hour contract. Now, this is of no help to your wife, Graham, but in about 18 months' time, the Labour government's going to make that sort of thing illegal. But that doesn't help your wife this year.
If he does, say, fire her, to say, OK, you're getting a month's notice, does that mean that she would then get redundancy pay or just her notice period, although who knows
if
what
it's
notice
because of
period
a reduction in hours, it's going to be, she'll get redundancy pay. She's also entitled to at least 10 weeks' notice because you get a minimum of a week for every year you've worked, even if there's no written contract. So she'd get 10 weeks' notice, plus she'd get redundancy pay, which, do you mind telling me how old she is?
She's over 60.
Okay, so she will get 15 weeks' worth of pay as a redundancy payment. 15 plus 10 is 25 weeks' pay in total. That's what she gets on termination.
Keep right,
so in a way,
and then exit right.
It's actually quite nice, dare I say, for her to be dismissed, because she'd get 25 weeks' pay. But of course, she'd get that next March anyway. Rather, she'd get the redundancy payment, the 15 weeks redundancy. She probably wouldn't get the notice pay because he'd give her notice and get her to work out the notice, so it wouldn't be free money, if that makes sense. But Graham, the question you also asked me at the beginning, let me just answer that before you ask me another. I can tell you, drawing any breath to do that.
Yeah.
If she accepts the pay cut and the hours cut, would her redundancy be based on the old income or the new income? It would be based on the new lower income. So her redundancy payment would be based on 16 hours a week, not 24 hours a week, if she accepted the lower paid job.
So then presumably the redundancy is based upon the last paycheck, as it were, prior to the date of redundancy.
If someone works regular hours, exactly, it's based on their last paycheck. If somebody works variable hours, it's based on the average of the last 12 weeks.
And if you, when she does when the practice does close, and she's under whichever way it goes. How does it work with as she hasn't got a contract, how would it work with the accrued holiday pay, not knowing when the holiday period starts and ends for each year?
Well, if she doesn't have a contract that sets out a holiday year, then it's deemed to start on the anniversary of her starting. So if she started on the 4th of December, her holiday year will be 4th of December to 3rd of January. But are you sure there's no policy with a holiday year in it? Most companies do have them.
It's a sole trader with her the only employee.
Okay, surely every year, Graham, the employer said your holiday resets, so use it or lose it.
I think it's fairly flexible, so I'm not quite sure whether the full holiday period to say, okay, you've got 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, whatever. I think.
Okay, well, the answer to the question, Graham, is if there isn't a policy or a written contract saying it, is the anniversary of the start date marks the start and end of the holiday year. Graham, thank you. I'm going to move on only because of time and because there are lots of people trying to get through. I do wish your wife the best of luck. It's horrible being made redundant. A lot of organisations, I suspect, will be making redundancies in the coming months and years because of the extra costs of employment that the last budget has added, the extra national insurance, the tweaking of pensions and the other expenses for employers, which just mean they might be cutting costs, which is not good for anybody. It's the LBC Legal Hour. You're listening to me, Barrister Daniel Barnett. The time is 9:09. Let's go to Stuart in Bristol. Stuart, good evening.
Good evening, David. Thank you for taking my call. We recently had a new boiler and hot water tank fitted by a well-known company, and after the heater left, we suffered quite a few leaks from both items. The company concerned came and replastered the lounge ceiling and have repainted it, but we put in a complaint about it, asking for compensation because we had to basically move out of the room while this work went on, and they offered a gesture of goodwill of £100. They're willing to put it in writing. Would that be classed as a deadlock letter? And if we don't want to accept that, where do we go? What can we do?
Okay, so the starting point is legally you're not entitled to compensation for inconvenience in this situation. You are entitled to compensation for any financial losses, but it sounds like they've put everything right, so you haven't had any financial losses, unless you've suffered any loss of income because you've had to stay at home and lose money for the repairs.
My wife had to take time off of work.
Did she lose money because of it?
Probably not, to be honest.
All right. So strictly there is no legal compensation if you haven't had any financial losses. Courts don't reward for inconvenience and hardship for this situation, but the company is not going to want to defend a court claim over such a small amount of money. Now, your option number one is just to accept the £100 because you won't get more from a judge. You'll get a big fat zero from a judge. You mentioned a deadlock letter. I'm not sure there's a ombudsman who deals with this sort of thing. Did you have one in mind?
No, it's just that I've been listening to you over previous weeks.
Yeah. A deadlock letter is important. A deadlock letter is important if you're going to an ombudsman, because you need that deadlock letter or an 8-week not replying to letters before you can go to an ombudsman. But there is no ombudsman who deals with plumbers, I'm afraid. So that option isn't available to you. It's simply accept the money or bring a claim knowing you will lose it, because you will, and hope that they will offer you a greater sum of money so as not to be put to the cost of defending.
Yeah, I asked for 10% of the total bill, but they've just dismissed that out.
What is 10% of the total bill?
About 400.
Yeah, it's not an unreasonable request, Stuart. I'd go back and say 200 or you're going to sue, and then take a decision whether you're probably bothered after that. But frankly, 100 they're offering is more, 100 more than you'll get in court.
But if I was to say 200 or a sue, could they then withdraw the gesture of goodwill and end up with nothing?
They could, but they're unlikely to. Big companies don't do that.
Okay.
All right. Stuart, thank you.
Thank you for your help.
Thank you very much for calling in. What a lovely guy. And it's so frustrating when we get things in school and not money. Sounds like Stuart paid £4,000 and then they never work properly. The installation's a bit sloppy. Let's go to Richard in Blackheath. Richard, good evening.
Yes, good evening. And about 4 months ago, you assisted me with a private car sale which had gone terribly wrong, but up in Scottish courts, in fact, in Inverness. I followed your advice and I got very helpful assistance as to what to do from the court officials, and eventually appeared in front of the sheriff, and who ordered mediation, and that was on the 6th of August. I've been queuing since then, and last week the mediator got in touch with me and said that she'd rather received all my documents, but nothing from the other side, apart from a note saying that they refused to go into mediation. A, can they do that? And B, what are my next steps?
So, yes, you can't compel anyone to mediate. Mediation means you come to a table together and you try to agree a settlement. You can't force someone to agree a settlement if they don't want to settle with you. But if they don't accept mediation and don't participate in the process, you are more likely to get any legal costs back from them if you continue with the claim. Because a judge might say that's unreasonable conduct. I'm assuming this is a small claim.
Yes, it is. 3,600.
So you're more likely to get costs for unreasonable conduct. If that's only, of course, of use to you if you're using lawyers. If you're not, it's of no use anyway, because you won't have any legal costs.
Yes, I can't afford it. I'm a pensioner.
Understood, and £3,000 isn't enough to use lawyers for, frankly. Whether you're wealthy or not so wealthy. But why pay a lawyer £10,000 over a £3,000 debt? But what you need to do now is write to the court, say the mediation has failed, and ask them to reinstate the case. And then it'll carry on going through the court process, and they'll get a court hearing date.
And I could do that just by a normal letter. I don't have to write it in legalese and double line spacing and all the rest.
I'm not hugely familiar with the civil procedure process in Scotland. I'm more familiar with the process in England and Wales, which is the one I operate in. But certainly if it was England and Wales, you'd have to fill in a small application form, which is very straightforward. But here's what to do, Richard. Just phone up the court and ask them how to do it. Don't tell me.
Thank you. Excellent.
Right. Thank you very much, Richard.
Excellent show. Bye.
Bye-bye. That was Richard from Blackheath, who is following up on a call about suing a seller. I remember that call actually a few months ago, where he bought a car from a private seller rather than what most people do, which is buy them from a garage forecourt. You're listening to the LBC Legal Hour. Do give me a call, 0345 60 60 973. Join me, go to the screen. I'll be coming to you shortly. The time now is 9:50.
This is LBC.
Meet the all-new Citroën EC3, the super mini proving electric's not just for the elite. Voted Car of the Year and Affordable Electric Car of the Year by Auto Express, this game changer delivers affordability without compromising on comfort, tech or design. Order yours now from £21,990. The all-new Citroën EC3. Welcome to the electric revolution. Search Citroën or visit your local Citroën retailer. EC3 on the road price includes VAT, delivery to dealer including number plates, government first registration fee and 12 months vehicle excise duty.
We're so happy, just so happy, we're all so happy, happy trains.
Don't let a blocked up drain ruin the festive cheer. There's always a better way to dispose of roasting fats and other blockable substances, from the smallest of crumbs to the thinnest custards. Find out all the tricks and tips and visit happydrains.co.uk. Happy Drains. Happy Christmas.
Emergency ambulance. Is the patient breathing?
I've hit a man in my car. He's not moving. I didn't think I was going that fast.
Is he awake?
I don't think so. I was only going 20-ish.
Okay, what's the address?
Church Road by the theatre.
Right, the ambulance crew are on their way.
I'm so sorry.
Stay calm. I need you to help him. I'm going to tell you what to do.
Please. He's not going to die, is he? I was only going a bit over.
Speeding injures or kills over 1,000 people in London every year. Slow down. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
The Legal Hour with Daniel Barnett on LBC.
Keep right and then exit right.
60973.
9:17. Keep listening because we have the LBC Legal Hour quiz coming up in just a moment.
Right.
0345 60 60 973. The lines are very busy at the moment, but if you do call now, there's a chance you'll get on before 10 o'clock. But let's go now to John in Wilsford.
Good evening, Daniel. I bought a suitcase for someone, for a friend of mine. It was one of those suitcases no, we don't accept cash. And here's the bit. They said, fine, we'll pay with a credit card, but the airline's credit card machine was not working. And as a result, they had to empty the contents of this suitcase into their other belongings and leave and go on their journey without the suitcase. And the current situation is the suitcase was basically confiscated at the gate by the airline, and they don't know what to do in terms of getting their suitcase back or claiming for the fact that incoming not that the airline had a duty to make sure that these precautions were
And that's what's still so the suitcase is currently still in the UK and your friends aren't in the UK?
No, they're back. They're back from holiday.
Right. Have they contacted the airline to say that?
Yes, they have. But, I mean, to me, there are two issues. Number one, how to get the case back. But number two, surely, if they don't accept cash, it's their responsibility.
Well, I'll deal with number two. I'll deal with number two in a second. But number one, if they still haven't got the case back, is it on the way back to them? Have they contacted the person to say...
They've contacted the airline, but these things take weeks. It's been about a month so far.
Okay. But you're mainly asking about the credit card issue?
Yeah, I guess
okay.
That's